Alright, so today I'm going to share some of my favorite vinyl. Some of it is rare, most of it is punk. I'm going to start with the LPs and then move on to the 7 inches at the end. I have one super rare one that there was only 100 press that I'll show you at the very end of the video. But before I start, remember to like and subscribe. This is a new channel separate from my guitar channel. I'm going to share cool stuff that I'm into, everything from like music to vinyl to Bitcoin to just kind of a random bag of stuff. I'm pretty random. And don't forget to leave a comment with the rarest punk records that you own. Alright, so this first one is a test pressing of the Dead Boys' Young, Loud, and Snotty record. This is from 1977. Test pressings are basically a test pressing of the record. So they press on vinyl the mastered version and send it to the band and anyone else who needs to kind of make a final approval before they go ahead and do the production run of it. And this is very rare because there was only a handful of them made. The next one I have is an early version of the Black Flag Damaged record. If you've seen later pressings of it, it's usually in black and white. This one's in color. And later versions have like this crazy warning label on the front that say like, as a parent, I found this is a very unparent friendly record or something like that. Next up is another Cleveland band, the Pagans. This is their Pink album. Now they put out a string of 7 inches in the late 70s that were their first releases that are super rare, and I'll talk about those later. But this was like their first full length, which was like pretty much self-recorded and self-released. And it didn't sell very well, and on the back it says 500 copies pressed. This one's actually in like pretty much perfect condition. It still has the shrink wrap. And they later re-released it with some extra songs and different versions of the songs, but this is the original. Next is the Stooges' Raw Power. This one's pretty beat up, but it's an original pressing. And it's just a great album. A lot of people have problems with the mix, but the songs are so good it doesn't even matter. And then we have one of the most iconic records of all time. This is the Ramones' very first record. And this one's not normally super rare, but when they first issued it, they did a small pressing with one number on the spine. This one has the SASD-7520. And then when they repressed it in a lot more quantities with a different number. So if you're a record nerd, this has the original number on it, which makes it more rare. I actually found this in a record store like 10 years ago for like $30 and didn't even really know anything about the numbers or anything and found out later that it was the first edition. And then this one's Reagan Youth, and this one's really cool because it has this like fold out cover and it's really hard to come by. I really like this Reagan Youth record. It seems like they're pretty much an underrated hardcore band, but it has this really cool fold out cover and they've reissued it, but it's almost never with the full artwork. And so I really like this version of it. And then here's one you don't really come across every day. This is actually the second Screeching Weasel record, and it is on Roadkill Records. This is the first original pressing of it. They didn't make very many of these, and then it was reissued later on Lookout Records with a different cover and different art. And this also has different mixes of the songs, some more songs that aren't on the Lookout Records pressing, and then some like weird little snippets in the middle, plus some inserts that weren't put on the Lookout Records version. And then we have another iconic punk record. This is an early pressing of the Sex Pistols, Nevermind the Bollocks. This is the UK pressing, and supposedly there is a like pressing that sounds way better than all the other pressings, and this one supposedly has the matrix numbers that match that, which makes it super rare. I can neither confirm nor deny that that's an actual thing. It sounds great to me. It sounds better than the US version, which I have as well, and I really like this color a lot better. Next up is I think this is a second pressing of the Wipers' first record. It's one of my favorite records, and this one's actually I think on clear vinyl if I recall correctly. Yeah, it's on clear vinyl. So the original was on black, and it's got the cool inner sleeve, which with this artwork that's really cool. Another iconic punk record. This is the Misfits' Walk Among Us with the original pink cover. It's got the original inner sleeve, and then it comes with some cool inserts. Comes with this Misfits Fiend Club insert. I think there's another insert in here, or maybe not. This one's not punk, but they influenced a lot of the early punk bands. This is the Velvet Underground. This is the original Warhol cover, and this one has the banana sticker intact, like it says peel slowly and see, although it looks like someone peeled it off and then stuck it back on like halfway. These I guess are hard to come by with the banana sticker back on. Maybe not my favorite Velvet Underground record. I think I like White Heat better, but this one's still up there with one of my favorite records. And then lastly, I have a bunch of like somewhat original Nirvana records. So this one is an early pressing of Bleach. This isn't a first pressing. Comes in a cool like seafoam green color, which I like. And then they later reissued it with like 1 or 2 extra tracks on it. So this is like one of the early versions that doesn't have the extra track on it. Then there's the Blue EP, which has 4 songs on it that were later reissued on Incesticide. And then I have first pressings of Nevermind, which is really hard to come by. Incesticide, I think on color vinyl. Yeah, it's like a bluish color vinyl. And then In Utero, which I think came on like a clear vinyl maybe. Yeah, it's like a clearish green vinyl. And then the Unplugged album, which I think is on like a white vinyl. I think these are pretty expensive these days. I was lucky enough to kind of be into vinyl in the 90s, so I bought these before they got too crazy expensive. And then lastly, I've got some punk 7-inches. The first one is the Descendants Fat EP, which is on New Alliance Records, which actually did a lot with SST early in the day. And it was produced by Spot, but it's got that cool New Alliance like style label. And then lastly, a bunch of Pagan 7-inches. So this one's obscenely rare. It's the 6 and change 7-inch on Neck Records. This is an original. Apparently the story goes that there were only 200 pressed. The singer got fed up, like they weren't selling, and they supposedly left 100 on a bus stop in Cleveland, which ended up who knows where. So the belief is that there were only really 100 out there. I actually was lucky enough to pick this up like 10 or 15 years ago. I have an online record store called redyetirecords.com if you want to check it out. I was buying a collection and I met this lady when I lived in LA, and she had told me that she had a bunch of records. She thought like 1,000, and it was from like someone she knew who was like in the record industry back in the day, and she didn't know what she had, if it was valuable or not or whatever, but it sounded interesting to me, so I drove like 45 minutes outside of LA to meet her. And when I looked at it, it would just look like a bunch of 80s garbage, and most of it was, but inside it I found a lacquer for a New Order 12-inch single, which a lacquer is what they actually mix the vinyl onto, and they cut it into the lacquer before they make a mold to press the vinyl on. So like usually they'll make like 1 or 2 lacquers for a pressing, and they're like super rare. So it actually made the whole trip worthwhile, and I sold that for a bunch of money. And then right about that same time, this came up for sale on eBay for like a really low price at the time. And I just happened to have that cash from that New Order record, so it was kind of good timing. And then being from Cleveland, I've always been a huge Pagans fan, and so these are the other 3 singles that they released in the late 70s, and they were all done on Jerome Records, and they have some of my favorite Pagan songs on it. This is probably my favorite punk 7-inch. It's Street Where Nobody Lives and What's This Shit Called Love. And then I've got Not Now, No Way and Dead End America. And again, not a lot of these were pressed, and they have some of my favorite Pagan songs. Alright, so that's it for this one. Thanks for checking out my new channel. Remember to like and subscribe. I'll be posting videos somewhat regularly whenever a new idea pops into my head, and thanks for watching.